Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Transform Your Team with Business Apps. Before we get started, just want to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You should see your attendee interface on your computer desktop in the upper right corner. You're listening in using your computer speaker system by default, but if you prefer to join us over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You'll have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We'll collect these and we'll address them at the very end during our Q&A session. So before I introduce our guest, Kevin Fitchner, I'd like to tell you a bit about Kintone. Kintone is an all-in-one cloud-based platform that allows teams to rapidly build and deploy custom business applications. What's so neat about the Kintone platform is that it empowers business leaders to create custom solutions with absolutely no coding skills needed. Sounds great, but what does that actually look like? So now I would like to introduce Kevin Fitchner. He's a 40-year automotive executive and consultant to Lease and Mercedes of Santa Rosa in California. Before Kintone, Kevin was spending a lot of time manually uploading his inventory data into Excel spreadsheets. He's going to share with you how Lease uses Kintone to make work more productive, more efficient, and more flexible. Hi, Kevin. Welcome.
Good morning, Nicole. Good morning to everybody listening.
So thanks for joining us, and let's just dive right in with some questions, starting with a little bit about what does Lease do and what are some of the main goals for your company at this time?
Well, Lease started out as kind of a simple pricing program. I wanted to be transparent with my pricing, not only on the internet, but on the cars on the dealership lot. So that's kind of where it started. And then trying to put my best foot forward in pricing, it dawned on me that I should also put my best foot forward on payments and lease payments. So I developed an idea of putting lease payments on every single car, and that's kind of how it started. And you're right, I was using an Excel spreadsheet to do it, and it was pretty cumbersome and frustrating. So that's
sounds pretty typical for a lot of folks in your field.
Yeah, and it is. Everybody is kind of trying to get on the lease bandwagon. There's so many pros to it that dealers, manufacturers, they're all advertising leasing, but there's no way to really bring it down. Every car is a different price and a different lease payment. So what I was looking to do was make it a real simple, obvious, solution. So my salespeople have everything that they need to present a lease right at their fingertips.
Excellent. So naturally then, some of those challenges and objectives led you to look for a solution. So maybe you can go a little bit more into detail of what those were and what your process was like to begin to look for something.
Well, it started out with kind of a proof of concept using Excel, and I'd used some other software products before that weren't web-based. I couldn't really convert them to the web. And one of the things I was trying to achieve is to be able to share this with some other auto dealers. I've got some friends using it right now, and the results have been great. Their lease penetrations moved from roughly 30% to almost 50%. So I've gotten good feedback and good support for it. So the process is working. Now the next thing was being able to give them access to it in a user-friendly, kind of intuitive way of doing it. So the process now is simply upload your inventory into the Kintone app and verify your rates and residuals. And the second I put my inventory in, it computes every single car lease within seconds. And before it was taking me probably 3, 4, 5 minutes to compute a lease. So I mean the time savings was huge. So with price changes, we're doing used car pricing. We reprice every week. So the whole idea there is that I can go pull the tags and put fresh tags on with reduced prices. And then you've got transparency between my pricing on the internet and when people come on the lot and see the exact same vehicle. So that part's worked. Yeah, it's worked really effective. So
fantastic. And you'll see the picture if you're looking at your screen. That's, of course, Kevin, and he's holding one of his tags that he used computing used by computed by using Kintone, and we're going to get a little bit more into your platform in about 10-15 minutes to actually show what this looks like and the processes that you are doing to make this happen and to batch print these things. But let's maybe back up a little bit first, and if you could tell us how you first heard about Kintone and what was really important to you when you were evaluating options for a solution.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't know a solution existed, so I'm sure I Googled, Excel spreadsheets converted to the web or something to that effect. And I did touch base with probably 3 or 4 other companies, and nobody really had a solution that was workable. It was either very, very expensive or just didn't miss pieces that were really important to the process. So I explored that. I remember emailing support or sales and got a response back from both Richard and Jana, the sales rep, and Richard, the chief engineer, and they told me they really wanted to talk to me about my project, and the next thing I knew, they were sitting in my office, which I was shocked. So I mean, right from the beginning, the support that I got from Kintone was unbelievable, probably more than I deserve, but I'm not complaining. So, it was one of those things where Richard and I sat down, and within an hour, he had a firm grasp of what it was I was trying to do. He had a couple of challenges that, kind of blindsided him to start with, but he worked his way through them, and I couldn't be happier with the solution. So, big reason I went with Kintone were the people, plain and simple. Not only did I get the product I wanted, but they also totally worked with me all the way through. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
Excellent. And so you already got into this a little bit just from the time you identified Kintone as being something you wanted to try to actually having something up and running. But can you walk us through the timeline a little bit of how long it did take you to get Kintone up and running and having a solution that you're now using on a daily basis?
Well, when we were done figuring out exactly what it was we were trying to accomplish, I was presented with a timeline of 30 days. And it was kind of like 10 days to kind of develop it, 10 days to kind of perfect it, and the last 10 days for proof of concept. And we actually came in a week early. And I can't tell you how many software projects I've been involved with where the timeline was a flat-out guesstimate, and there were always things that came up, and we exceeded it. So the fact that we were done ahead of what was projected was really a nice surprise. So I was up and going within actually 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know that's something, we've talked about this before too, and that's something that a lot of our clients appreciate, is that you can still have this very custom-built solution, but you can have it up and running, as you said, within weeks. Something comparable can take sometimes upward of a year just because of the back and forth between line of business users and IT departments. And this is a custom-built solution that you're able to use quickly, but it still has all that IT governance and data security that you need at the same time. So it's a win-win situation for everyone involved, and really rapid build and deploy is a key part of what Kintone does and makes it usable for people who just need something up and running very quickly. So that's really excellent to hear. And of course, we talked a little bit about this, but if you can expand on how Kintone met your expectations.
Well, it gave me the solution that I was looking for. I've got username and passwords for each and every user for security. It's like they have their own private little app, so they can go in. Nobody can see anybody else's data, sale prices, any of that sort of thing. So it's a real secure environment. I get notifications if they're uploading inventory or printing tags or things like that, and I can even stay on the lookout for any kind of error messages so that I can help other users through the process. So I mean, from start to finish, it's just absolutely perfect, and it's intuitive. That's the best part.
I like how you said something earlier a few weeks ago that you see Kintone as being bulletproof. What do you mean by that?
Well, when I was using an Excel spreadsheet, I needed a spreadsheet for each dealership. and every dealership had, kind of variables that, could potentially goof up calculations. So the fact that, I have a stable platform where nothing changes and all I have to do is upload the data pertinent to their store, I just don't, my first concern was, are the payments correct? Are the discounts showing correct? And all of this sort of stuff. So, I was doing so much checking, it wasn't even funny. And now we're to the point where we just know it works, and if you put in the information, it's there, and it calculates correctly, and we're good to go.
Excellent. Now, I would say really the meat and potatoes of this is how Kintone helps you save time and increase productivity.
Well, I have a couple hundred cars in stock, so doing 200 tags, probably would have been a 2 or a 3 day process. Now it's a 15-minute process. And when you multiply that by, trying to do this for other dealerships as well, right now I've got 5 dealerships that I'm doing it for. So when the lease numbers come out and everything changes at the beginning of the month, they literally want it the next day. And it was not possible the way I was doing it before. Now I can, knock it out in 15 minutes and email them their tags. Richard will show how this works, but it's slick. I can do a batch upload of the tags, hit one button, and it emails me PDFs on all 200 tags just that quick. So there's no other way I could have accomplished this without your help.
Amazing. Well said. Thank you, Kevin. So we are going to move on and actually go behind Kevin's platform and show you what it looks like when he's using Kintone and how he's doing these different processes. So I'm going to turn it over to Richard Sue. He is our sales engineer, and he's going to just give a tour and show you how Kevin interacts with Kintone on a daily basis.
Thanks, Nicole, and thank you, Kevin, for the kind words. We'll just be going over a brief overview of Kevin's platform within Kintone. As you can see, he has a dealer portal, and essentially this is a domain custom to Kevin, which he's named all his own, and he has all the administrative rights over. And I have my own personal little login over here, just as his other users from his dealerships do. They all have their own unique username and passwords. That way they have access to only the visual applications that they should have access to. Go ahead and log in and click on the Kintone platform button. And as we can see, we have a number of different spaces representing his different dealerships. And those spaces are privatized according to the individual dealership. But within these spaces, we really hold applications for the rates and residuals as well as the inventory related to that dealership. So for example, we're going to be looking at Mercedes-Benz of Santa Rosa, and I'll go ahead and click into the rates and residuals application. And as Kevin said, every month the rates and residuals change, and he'd like to upload those. Obviously they're standardized by the make, so every month it changes, so his lease payments change according to the inventory. So again, this is just kind of a database that we upload on a monthly basis. If I go back, we'll go ahead and take the inventory application. Really, this is where a lot of the calculations happen and the output of the lease tax happen. So essentially, each record over here represents a different piece of inventory. And if I go ahead and click into one of these records, we can see the various different fields and auto calculations that we have. Then the blanked out fields are typically calculation fields. And down below we have a bunch of other calculations for the various leases. And we have fixed fees and variable inputs. And one great thing about the application that we created for Kevin is he can translate this across various different states as well. People or states with different fixed fees or other types of DMV fees Kevin can define those ahead of time within his application himself, and he can tailor these according to the state as well as their tax rates. This way you don't have to rebuild the entire platform from scratch. You can just change out the default values, still keep the same functions, the same calculations, but end essentially with the right numbers. So I'm going to cancel out of this, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the output of the individual lease tags themselves. So Kevin has a number of different templates, but we'll go ahead and take a look at this square Mercedes-Benz lease tag template. If we output this from a singular record, we'll see the result within a new window. And essentially, this is something that he can print out based on the values within this record. The auto-population of the values would be things like MSRP, the discount, sale price, residual payments. And all of these are customized values per record, as you can see here. That's just one example of an output per record, but the real strong point of this is actually going to be able to filter across the entire database of his inventory, which could be hundreds of cars. In this case, for the new inventory, it's 127. But he can actually batch output a lot of these according to a specific tag type. So if we click output over here, I'm not going to click OK because it'll probably send 127 PDFs to whatever email address this is directed at, more than likely his. But I don't want to fill the spam box, so we'll refrain from that for now. But if we click OK, what essentially it will do is it will strip out the values per record, place them along the template, and create a PDF out of that. That way you can print out the tags in a batch print. Again, it's just cutting down his time. Previously with Excel, I believe it was one tag at a time. Now it's everything at once, anything he wants. Another great thing about the Kintone platform in Kevin's use case is that he can sign on multiple dealerships, and this is really what we're trying to push with Kevin. Obviously, he's come up with this great idea, this great application package, and this great method of really getting a lot of up-to-date lease tags and pricing information out onto his dealership. Not just online, but actual tags within the cars. Within the Kintone platform, he can distribute usernames and passwords, privatized spaces, as well as access to the applications, and he can administrate a lot of the functionality and a lot of the tag types just from the Kintone platform. So it really gives him strength in distributing this application package while maintaining his intellectual rights over his idea of what the application is. Next, we're going to go into Invoice Creator, which is a third-party plugin which is native to the Kintone platform, which we utilize to do the batch print for Kintone, for Kevin's application. Right here, I've already logged into Kevin's account, but as you can see, he has a number of different tags. We'll take a look at the ones for Mercedes-Benz of Santa Rosa. And as you can see, he has all the tags right down here. And within Invoice Creator, you can overlay a PDF template within the background. That way, if you do have a standardized template of what you would like the background or the grid view to look like, in which you would like to place the values upon, you can upload that and it will print out along with the per record values. So as you can see, this is just a blank template. But when we move into the form itself, we can see how Kevin's laid this out. Again, this is another drag and drop utility. There's no coding required. And there are a number of different fields that you can choose from. For example, if we would like to select a number field, go ahead and just drag and drop. And here we have a new field, and we can define the values that we would like to place within that field. Obviously, Kevin has a number of different fields over here. We can just click on MSRP. And we can size it, we can align it, we can space it the way we want, as well as there are various attributes to the different field types as well. Obviously, the numbers, you're going to have decimal places and rounding. Date times, they'll have their own attributes as well. But again, this is all easy to use, drag and drop. Anytime Kevin needs a new type of template or PDF, then he can just go ahead and create a new one on the fly. So that was the basics of Kevin's application suite. It may seem simple, but obviously it's saving him a bunch of time. Okay. I'll hand it back over to Nicole.
All right. Thank you, Richard. So now we're going to begin answering some questions that you have submitted during today's presentation. And as a reminder, you can still submit questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. So why don't we take a look at what questions we have. Bear with us for just one moment here. All right, this first question will be for Richard, and this question is, how is my data protected in Kintone? Let's see. So I can maybe just answer this. Just a couple things. Data at rest is always encrypted. And maybe if we can get a mute for Mr. Richard, there we go. We got a little bit of feedback there. So data at rest is encrypted, as well as data in transit. And there's a couple other features that you can check out actually on our security page. But your data is always protected in multiple ways, single sign-on. Maybe is there anything else that you would like to add to that, Richard? All right, let me mute myself here one moment.
So as far as data security goes, our data security, we enable data security at rest as well as in transit. A lot of these meet many compliance features and will pass your IT security questionnaires. Typically, we get a lot of those from larger enterprises. Additionally, we do have a number of security features within Kintone, such as two-factor authentication. Essentially, we can IP fence the entire domain and require that each and every single unique username and password have a client certificate associated with their individual device to access the domain. These are just layers and layers upon security that we enable to protect your data.
Okay, great. Thank you, Richard. And let's see, we've got a couple more questions. I think these are geared more toward Richard. Let's see. All right, here is another question. What outside services or solutions does Kintone integrate with?
So Kintone has a number of different native plugins available, which are made by CStaff. Those would be Print Creator, which you saw earlier, as well as Form Creator, which is a web form creator based off of the fields within a Kintone application. This allows for public submission of data. In addition, we have a number of other plugins that we've developed along with Box, as well as Zendesk, and Mandrill, which is a MailChimp utility, basically emailing web service. In addition, we do integrate with the integration hub Zapier. If you're not familiar with them, go ahead and take a look at their site. Essentially, they are an integrations hub for many different web services such as Gmail, SurveyMonkey, things like that. A lot of the major players within the web services and cloud space.
All right, great. Thank you, Richard. We've got a couple more questions here. Let's see. Actually, I just assigned you a couple, if you can check them out. All right, so why don't we move on to this next one about mobile integration with Kintone and what that looks like. If Richard, you can explain a little bit about that.
As far as mobile integration, we do have mobile applications for iOS as well as Android. Again, all of the security features are enabled once again within iOS and Android applications, such as the two-factor authentication. Within the mobile applications, you do have the ability to use applications just the same way you would through the web portal. So any kind of changes within the applications, individual records, updates to statuses, attachments, such as photos, documents from phones, it's all enabled within mobile applications.
Okay, fantastic. All right, next question. And all right, the question is, we're looking for a customized solution to manage our vendors, generate purchase orders, and manage 20+ purchase orders per project. Is this something Kintone can do?
Absolutely. We've seen this as quite a common use case as far as custom program management and association of records per project. Essentially, you're looking to manage your vendors, which could be users within a Kintone platform. And we can define access rights per application, per record, as well as down to individual field. That way your individual vendors can still work within the same application where you can monitor and manage the overall process, but they'll be privatized to their individual pieces of work or their individual records. As far as generating purchase orders, whatever types of calculations we can set up within a Kintone application. And if you do have a standard template, we can utilize the Invoice Creator utility to generate those purchase orders. That would be a printout, but additionally we do integrations with different email services, so you can email your purchase orders if you want to do it that way. Another question we have is, can this be used for large installations files for furniture dealers with lots of unique inventory items to specific jobs? I'd say the general answer is yes, but obviously we would have to have a little bit more details into that use case. As far as large installation files, as long as you have a lot of that unique inventory within a database, we can associate that with an installation, and you can kind of track the overall project progress within an application. Depending on the items that you want to track and how you would like to deduct unique inventory pieces or track those, that would be defined within a specification before we create an application for you. But from those two questions, those are fairly common use cases that we see. Essentially, it's custom program management, but we just need to define what your data points are and how they connect between the two applications, one which would act as a database and one which would act as a project tracker. I'll hand it back over to Nicole.
Okay, really great questions, everyone. And if those require some follow-up, we'll be happy to do more of a one-on-one email or phone call with you to answer some of those questions. And if there's something that you did not get to ask, feel free to send an email, Nicole@kintone.com. That's Nicole @kintone.com. So just want to thank Richard and Kevin again and everyone for attending today's webinar, Transform Your Team with Business Apps. So with all this information fresh on your mind, it's the perfect time to sign up for a free 30-day Kintone trial to practice building apps and workflows. Just visit kintone.com/trial. And once you leave today's webinar, you'll receive a survey on the presentation, and we would appreciate it if you complete that and provide your feedback. You'll also receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. On behalf of Kintone and our presenters, thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your day.